Day we are together again. On the day we are together again, I will pull you in close like a hoop with no end. On the day we are together again, we will share the same table again. We will share the same table again. I will pass you the salt, the candlelight will bend when we share the same table again. We will walk around the block hand in hand. We will walk around the block hand in hand. We will stop for a snack at the taco truck stand when we walk around the block hand in hand. Someday we will go back to work. Someday we will go back to work. May we be among people who respect our work. Someday we will go back to work. I will write you a letter for now. I will write you a letter for now. Hope is a message that survives somehow. I will write you a letter for now. I will help the strangers I meet. I will help the strangers I meet. It is possible to get back on our feet. I will help the strangers I meet. To the healers who keep us alive. To the healers who keep us alive. A toast to your courage, knowledge and light. To the healers who keep us alive. And the ones we love who are gone. And the ones we love who are gone. We remember the stories and we sing the songs for the ones we love who are gone. And on the day we are together.
Some people just don't understand country living. I agree.
Hello, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving to each and every one of you. Today is November 22nd, 2023, 7:52 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you here in America, and happy wherever you're at. It's good to see you all. Thank you all for joining me. I apologize. I was in the kitchen at 6 o'clock and my phone started boom, 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 boom. And people's like, you got a live scheduled. And I'm like, well, I've got stuff in the oven, so I can't do it. Can't do it. So, anywho, I owe you a piece of pie. I'll give you a piece of pie. So, looking good in orange, my friend. Well, hopefully I'll never have to be in the other kind of orange. Pray to God I don't. Oh my God. Jail is terrifying, right? Okay, so I need y'all to vote on what y'all would rather do, finish the TIR interview with Dr. Gary or Don's sisters. So you guys let me know. Cooking and listening is the best way to cook. Yeah. If you're cooking or whatever, just put us right beside of you and you can hear us gab. It's good to see you all. Well, thank you. Thank you. I like to cook. I do like to cook. When I have time and I'm not like rushed, I don't mind cooking whatsoever. A lot to be thankful for. Uh, every day we have a lot to be thankful for. In life, we tend to unfortunately look at maybe the one or two things that we may not feel, is going right in our lives, but look at the other things that are such a blessing. And there is certainly a lot of them. Yes, family, friends, if you're healthy, just so much to be thankful for. I've been in jail, orange, more than once. Orange is not my call. Right. I've never, thank God, I've never been to jail, and I hope I never have to. Um, but yeah. All right. So let's see. Let's see where we're at. It's going to be a more chill live stream. Got 159 votes, and it looks like we're going to finish Dr. Gary's interview with the interview room. Hope you guys went over to the interview room yesterday and watched Chris was live, and he was one second here. He was talking about the Deanne Werner case. She, I'm assuming, was found yesterday, and I don't know if they made an arrest. Probably, in my opinion, if they haven't made arrest, it's probably coming. And I would probably uh, guess that it would be her husband. So it's going to be an emotional holiday for them. Bittersweet, I would say. They can finally lay their mother and friend and family member to rest. They arrested the husband. Thank you. Thank you. Arrest made. Great. Great. So he can be in prison or jail right now on his Thanksgiving because, nobody, I thought they didn't find her. They didn't find her. I thought they found her. Let me look this up. Bill Warner appears in court after charged with Dee Warner's mother, or murder, rather. We'll get to the. Let me just see here. This. Look, they are. I mean, they have torn this apart. After it was April of what, 2021. Yep, April 24th, 25th. He was taken into custody. Look at there. He is not a nice man. Not a nice man. to put it, nobody. Yeah, okay. Okay. All right, so let's get on with it here. Thank you all for joining me this evening. I appreciate it. Hope you're all just chillaxing. We're going to finish this interview with, of course, Chris from the interview room. All links are in the description. Also, check out Dr. Gary's book. I got it on Audible because I am in the car a lot. Uh, so I got the Audible version. Love it. Love, love, love it. So we got 30, we got about like 40 more minutes of this interview.
Person with no motive whatsoever wandered in and took this.
Can y'all hear that? Could y'all hear that? You got the Audible? Fellow Sinner. Oh, thank you, Rap Track Gangsta. Yep. Okay, perfect. Listen to where we left off because it's a very important part. I'm going to just slip back here just a tad.
Is keeping you from getting an inheritance. In the case of Susan Smith, keeping you from having a romance, right? You might not have fun. The idea would be that you would eliminate that person. And of course, because you're not a sophisticated offender that has done this repeatedly and learned from experience, you might Google around or something and learn about some basics of how crime operates, and you would cook up a cover story.
Don has other people Googling for him. Don't you, Donnie?
That was sort of ridiculous, you probably. And 9 times out of 10, the story is a person with no motive whatsoever wandered in and took this person off, and we never saw them again. They were gobbled up into the darkness. Oh, that somebody came in with a gun. They didn't rob anything, nothing. They just decided to kill this person for no reason, and I can't make any sense out of it. And the only reason that the public would even remotely consider the story true is they're unaware of that inside story of what it is that is being concealed or what it is that would be gained by the elimination of the individual. And this is something that came up as a possible motive in the story of Casey Anthony. That this.
All right. So, first of all, in the Summer Wells case, a lot of people talk about crime of opportunity. This was not a crime of opportunity. A crime of opportunity is, uh, you know, uh, you see a child walking down the street alone, and nobody's around and they snatch the kid, right? That means it's not planned in any way. The opportunity was there. Now, Summer being on top in the middle of nowhere on a dead end road on a hill inside of a home with adults around her is not a crime of opportunity. Doesn't matter which way you cut it, not a crime of opportunity. He's your true man crush, Dr. Gary. I like Dr. Gary. He's really awesome. So I've heard a couple creators say it was might have been a crime of opportunity. How? How is that a crime of opportunity?
Kid was an impediment that had to go, right? And so that is something that is always in the back of my mind when I hear about these mystery cases where somebody says must have been an abductor, but there's no evidence of an abductor. Then you start thinking, who would benefit from the elimination of this person, right?
Who exactly? Must have been an abductor, but there's no sign of an abductor. Just like Dr. Gary just said. Who says there's no sign of an abduction? Hawkins County, TBI. I'm sure the FBI card team said there is no sign of a stranger abduction. So, what does that leave us with? That leaves us with she either wandered off and there is no sign that she wandered off. The bloodhounds went to the road allegedly and stopped there. They searched, for uh 4 or 5 mile radius, the best technology, the best drones, the best search team, helicopters, manpower, day in, day out. If she was there, they would have found her, they say. So they didn't get a scent anywhere else that we are aware of. Maybe they got one at like Fred's driveway, which was where Candace was. And it's very interesting to me that Dawn and Candace was at Fred's at both different points of the day. Candace was down there, she says, when right after Summer went missing. Dawn is down there after uh, Summer goes missing 3 hours later, saying he'll see her in the resurrection. So that's really all we know. So what would be the benefit, so to say, of Summer uh not being there if there is no sign of an abduction, if she's not in the woods? And just as I showed you, the news said after the search team started wearing down that they are looking at people closer to the child, meaning Summer. And I showed you guys that. So, what is it? You know, in any, you know, murder case, there's, that or disappearance or any crime, there's, you got to have some sort of motive. And it's, what is it?
And there's only a few reasons why that could happen, right?
Now, it could be an accident. The accident isn't, there could have been an accident, but even with an accident, there would have had to have been some sort of motive. If the parents are involved, there would have to be a motive for them not to call for an ambulance, to call law enforcement, and that would be that they would have to, have shown to be neglectful, or that CPS was already involved and they didn't want to get in any more trouble. Summer, could have been abused by someone. Who knows?
The person knows too much, right? The person's an impediment to money that you are trying to get. The person's an impediment to a romance. You're sick and tired of taking care of them. Or another possibility is that you victimized them yourself and it went too far and something happened to the person and now you've got to eliminate evidence. So that you start thinking about those possibilities, and if they're true, then it suddenly makes everything that comes out of the mouth of the family very hideous, because it's a kind of a going out of your way to come across as the Brady Bunch, when in fact, the reality on the ground doesn't match that, right? And so, when I look at stories like this, I always keep a completely neutral stance, because it's entirely possible you're dealing with somebody who, honest to God, had their child taken and is devastated. And on the other hand, there's always the possibility that there's not truth to that, and you have to start wondering what really went on in there. I know from the little bit that I read before we had this conversation tonight about this case, I know that parents have been questioned, devices have been taken, Sex offenders have also been questioned. In other words, everybody's on the table so that it sounds like law enforcement wisely and publicly, because this is available all over the internet, are doing the same thing I'm suggesting. Look at it from all those angles and don't eliminate anybody because nothing's adding up. And I guess what I'm saying is that if you lean toward the maybe this is a cover up story, it makes this whole conversation very disturbing that you just had. If you look at it from the lens of this is somebody who had their child taken from them, it's heartbreaking. So that that I think we have to kind of be neutral in our stance. We can't make an accusation,
Right.
but it is intriguing to think about what would be the gain. There doesn't seem to be a gain. So if it's an elimination thing, what does that leave? That somebody is something's going on in that household where and something happens to the kid and you got to get rid of them. So that that's a horrifying thing to contemplate. So I think your thoughts have to go in a few different places. One, the possibility of them being victims themselves. The other possibility being, who knows? Let law enforcement sort that out. But I think, Chris, it sounds like when you're having this conversation, you're finding holes in the story that are making you think this sounds like a cover story.
And that's the problem. Anyone can have uh, compassion that a child has been abducted or has been taken from them. Uh, but there is so many holes in their story that it just doesn't seem plausible, especially whenever, again, the parents are not cooperating with this investigation.
You said obviously no Don's there, but like the mother and all those other people, are they still cooperating?
No, they're not cooperating right now. They have attorneys.
So why would parents not cooperate with their own daughter's investigation? Daily, thank you so much. I appreciate you for the one gift. If you was the one that received it, please thank our lovely Daily. Appreciate you, my dear. Thank you for your support. Bingo, Mohawk. That's exactly right. 1 + 1 is 2, not 5. Why, why won't the parents cooperate with their own daughter's investigation? I've never seen that I can think of an innocent parent or anyone innocent not want to cooperate with their daughter's investigation. Now, you can say, oh, this and this and this and that, but it's true. It is absolutely true. People who have nothing to hide nothing. They're open books. They, you know, they're shady to begin with. I mean, you look at, you look, you can be like, oh, well, she's a nice person. When, I'm sure if you got to know her, you would love her. No, no, it's not that, it's not that, it's not, it has nothing to do with me or you or anyone liking someone or loving someone. Look at this. This is neglect. This is neglect, no matter how you slice it. No matter how you slice it. I don't support anyone that, neglects their children like this at all. Yeah, that's exactly right, Crystal. That's exactly right. Now, if they are, if they would happen to be innocent, which I'll be shocked personally, because I would want to know why you're not cooperating with your daughter's investigation. Just because Tim puts it out there and says, oh, they're cooperating with TBI and FBI, he doesn't mention Hawkins County, because Ronnie Lawson has already said that they are not cooperating, and TBI is not going to make a statement whether they're cooperating or not. Don Candace, when's the last time you talked to the TBI? I bet you didn't call them last. I bet you they called you last or came to visit you last. So, when is the last time you've went to TBI, you've went to the FBI? Bet you it's not been anything recent. When's the last time you've sat in a room and, poured out everything that everything that happened that day? Oh, wish someone would come explain themselves, not looking in that camera and pleading for your daughter. Summer, if you're out there, honey, mommy and daddy, we're here. We're going to get you. Nothing like that. And there is some things, yes, everyone is different in these situations. Absolutely. But there is a universal way that, to to how do I put it? To, pour your heart out for your child that you are missing. Uh, I mean, crying when you're drunk doesn't do it.
Am I reading you correctly?
Yeah, no, you're correct. It sounds like, to me, in my opinion, has been, I've not left that house yet because there haven't been any other mitigating, factors, and I've watched everything that, other creators have done on YouTube, and I've kind of purposely stayed low. But one the parents keep lashing out on YouTube about just their behavior as a whole, and sometimes it's while under the influence of alcohol, sometimes it's stone sober, but there's just too many holes that unfortunately at this point that they've put out into the public arena, into the conversation, and a lot of shifting in relationship to from the original stories to today, and a lot of blaming other people other than potentially them looking in the mirror and saying, okay, yeah, you're right, I did say that, I shouldn't have said that, et cetera, et cetera. And so, but it started early, by the way, within the first 9 days.
But are
Within the
the other
first 9 days.
kids there? The other kids are in their possession, they're home.
No, the other children have been taken into protective custody, and that's the other thing. Now, the Child Protective Services is being blamed for abducting Summer right now, by family members.
What?
And it's almost like, yeah, exactly. And I talked to the father, believe it or
I mean, you don't hear parents. I mean, they threw everybody under the bus. Everybody, including even YouTubers that never even heard of Summer or knew of Summer prior to June 15th, 2021. Now they are throwing CPS under the bus, saying that they literally walked up on their hill one day and could have taken Summer. What world are we living in? That is the most insane thing. That's I can't even think of something more insane than that. Even the Bears got blamed. Yeah, we got Bears. We got Bears. Yeah, Lil Wing. I mean, yes, it would have been, better for to take them sooner, but it didn't work that way, unfortunately. And then you have Don cussing law enforcement. Hawkins, I mean, these people are actively searching for their daughter.
Or not about 2 weeks ago, and I told them, I said, look, by going out there and saying stuff like that is not very, healthy and or correct. There's not a huge conspiracy in Tennessee for the Child Protective Service to kidnap your daughter and then come in and take your other three children, independent of that. So,
And do we have
and
any knowledge? Is it public knowledge why the children were taken?
no, they won't talk. The Child Protection Services won't reveal that. But the kids have been out of that home since shortly thereafter Summer's disappearance. And in fact, they had already were already on the radar of Child Protective Service before Summer before she disappeared. And so, I've always
I think the reason Don went to Utah, specifically with one child, was to avoid CPS at that point as well. I didn't know if I missed the second one. This is the third part that we're listening to. We broke this up into 2 or 3 parts because it's such a long interview. Why couldn't take her to the hospital if it was an accident? Well, it depends. Let's say for instance, the Candace and H was there with Summer at the watering hole that day. They weren't paying attention. God knows what they were doing, but she had a kid drunk there, drinking alcohol and smoking God knows what. And then you've got Summer in the water. Maybe nobody's attending her. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to freak out because nobody was watching her, right? Let's say, for instance, she was left in a vehicle. Well, Candace goes into the gas station or the grocery store. She's sitting out there with a jacket on, Summer, that has a hood on top of it, zipped up with long sleeve pants on, and she's has a heat stroke, or God forbid something else. What are you going to say? Left her in the car, and now this happened. And then she's got she knows they know CPS is hot on their trail. uh so they could lose the other kids forever like that. So you just don't know. You just don't know.
had the opinion, and I've talked to, Dawn, her father, and Candace, her mother, that 5-year-olds just don't vanish from their basement at a house.
But all the kids, one way or another, are out of the house. Whether it's
They're all gone. Yeah, they're all out.
do you remember the great Irish playwright Oscar Wilde wrote a play, The Importance of Being Earnest, and in that story, a woman, Lady Bracknell, is interviewing a guy that wants to marry her daughter. And in the interview, she asks about his parents' whereabouts, and he says that he doesn't know his parents. He's orphaned. He was left in a handbag in the cloakroom of Victoria Station, if I remember correctly. And she says, in this totally ridiculous line, but it's really interesting. It's totally ridiculous line. She says something like, I'm going to misquote it, but something like, to lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, might be considered misfortunate, but to lose both begins to look like carelessness. And of course, the audience cracks up. But then you pause and you think about it. What is Oscar Wilde implying there? That when a person loses one member of the family, that's terrible. Two, terrible. Three, terrible. But when everybody's gone, don't you have to start wondering what you're doing wrong? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
you sort of have to pause a moment and kind of.
And I would ask, and Dr. Gary and Oscar Wilde is right there. When you look at Don and Candace's life history, the decisions, particularly around their children, having multiple kids, multiple states, multiple CPS cases, they've all came to the same conclusion. Every one of them at different states and everything. They've all came at different conclusions. So what what is it? You've got to understand that it's just not good for them.
To think about that, right? And so it's interesting because I mean, I sense that that's what you're starting to wonder about, Chris, is the possibility that that kid is in the home, the other ones are out. They may know something and should be talked to if they haven't already been. You've got another kid that's in the home, and all of a sudden she goes missing. And people who have had multiple children from them are telling the story that someone else who takes children, who does terrible things to children, came and took this kid and brought them off. And it's curious. Also, am I correct that there's a legal history in the parents, or are they
Yeah,
like
Dad.
people that have never? What?
No,
What's the
both have history. Mom had lost children previous to these children. She
lost
has
children in what way?
criminally that she had
Uh-huh.
committed some acts that the children were taken. Also, Dad has a history where he's got he had broken into places and stolen underwear, that kind of thing. And then of course there is a whole. He spent multiple years in prison, and it's really interesting because they went on the Dr. Phil show, and he introduces himself as somebody who grew up in the system.
Don affectionately brags that he grew up in prison, he says, across the United States, on both sides of the Mississippi. He has literally, I mean, the man got out of jail at 19 years old. And the day that he gets out, his sisters said he tries to essay them the very day he gets out. He apparently, at nearly 60 years old, just got off probation, doesn't learn.
And it's so fascinating to hear, that now, the narrative that's been created here has primarily been driven by Dad. It's his narrative. He knew from the day it happened that Summer was missing, but then he adds those caveats in there, right? About
And that's true. Don is the one that does the talking for them. Candace does no talking. I don't care what creator comes and says, "Oh, well, she's answered questions and everything like that." No, get someone up there who will actually she'll sit up there and talk about a timeline, then we might do something. But, showing a scrapbook and pictures and stuff, that is not answering questions. It's just not. It's not. If you want to get into the real meat and potatoes of June 15th, that's a different story. Then, answer them. But, time just slips away when you're trying to have a good time.
Seeing her on the resurrection, after the resurrection, and the my biggest fear is her being tortured and that kind of stuff, and you're in a dungeon and that kind of thing, and
Pretty
it's just like, right. I mean, it's pretty specific and early, by the way, long before I ever heard about it. I mean, I went back and watched all the news clips on it, and you can, he's clearly on out in the public, telling the public that, look, this is what I unfortunately feel and think. But then simultaneously, you have this, you know, conversation about, well, I know she was taken, and in the first place he goes to is that shed. So it's really weird, and I think this is one of these things that is perplexing to law enforcement, but it is definitely an open case. And I think what makes it even weirder is when people go over later after this show to go see the lab, Josh over there. He's going to play some tapes about the father who recently said some things about him, and they're very disturbing. To be honest with you, they're pretty disturbing. So if you're just with us tonight, if you've not subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button.
I mean, when is the last time, you've threatened a life to take someone's life? I, I n- never. Well, that's just a regular week for Don. That's just a regular week for him. As of recently, the things that he has said to people, he gets drunk and he says outlandish, crazy things. Uh, it's
If you've
just
not
ridiculous.
bought Dr. Picato's book, The New Evil, go to Amazon. You have to pick this book up. It is a fascinating read. He is one of the world's foremost experts on not only, I'll call it psychobabble. I know that's not the appropriate terminology for it, but psychotic versus non-psychotic persons. And he's also, Dr. Bricato is also the author of one of the largest mass murder databases in the world from Columbia University. He actually manages it. And every time I talk to him about some of my old murder cases, he goes, "Just a minute, let me check my file." And sure enough, my stuff is in there, isn't it? I'm blown away every time I talk to you. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that case, and we're
There really
colleagues.
are people who do that thing, like you see in TV shows where people are cutting out the articles from the newspaper and keeping them for years, but I really do it. I mean, the reason is that I like to create databases that allow me to cross-check cases so that I can determine the likelihood of something or the unlikelihood of something. So, like, I can go into my cases and I can say,
Exactly, common sense. I know what a sign. She's a terrific parent. She has a birth certificate. She probably kept it because she couldn't get free government benefits. Yeah, she showed Summer's birth certificate. Well, you're the biological mother. Who else is going to have it? I'll wait. I'll wait. And also, Summer is 5 years old. 5 years old. And she will remain 5 years old until she is found. She Technically, when someone disappears, they remain the same age until they are found. So that's an important thing as well. A fugitive recovery. They blame everyone but themselves, excuses over and over. Well, they've never taken accountability for anything in their life. She had to pull out the birth certificate because she couldn't remember how old Summer was. Don't know. Doesn't she have it tattooed on her leg? The kids' birth dates. So they can't even tell you Summer's birthday. Yep. Yes, it did. 13 days. 13 days for a mother to get in front of a camera. Listen, whether you have anxiety, social phobias, you're shy, whatever, whenever something like that, like a missing child, those go out the window because your instincts take over. Do you feel they will take their secret to the grave? No. Nope. Because I believe I believe there's going to be justice in this case. There will be justice. What innocent leather, I think you mean mother, waits 13 days to come out and talk about their daughter that is missing. When she did that, it showed red flags. Yeah. You need to get your kid back. Should override an anxiety. Absolutely. It's instincts. Thank you, Amber. Thank you so much, my love. Appreciate you for your support. It means a lot. Hope you have a good Thanksgiving. All the money they get from cash apps keep paying. Yeah. Yeah, I talked to, Brandy. She can remember everything. And I mean like everything. I know, like if you've okay. All right, Amber. I love Chloe. She's a sweetheart. She's a sweetheart. Um they will believe, they won't say. Yeah, like if you've ever had anything traumatic in your life, like you've lost a husband, a wife, a parent, you can remember it because it scars you. It is, there's my love, listening while prepping. Yes. Thank you. What are you cooking, Brandy? Brandy also remembers how long. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, she told Dawn how long, Summer and Monkey had been missing. Beth, hold on. Just hold on.
What
Takes
is
a
the
while.
probability of according to news reports, out of the thousands of cases that I have here?
I mean, look at. All right, let's look at this. Dee Warner case. She went missing in April of 2021. Summer went missing June of 2021. There was an arrest made yesterday, right? Took a while. Took a while. Now think about the CPS, how they're interlinked, intertwined. And I believe that could possibly be holding things up as well. You know, TBI, they said they will not stop until Summer gets justice. They said until Summer is found. Well, we're going to hold them to it. And I believe that they will fund, because I know this has been very heavy on them as well.
On a dead end, you know, like that kind of thing. I like to be able to do that because I'm an odds man, you know. So I'm like, you know, shooting.
Well, you blew my mind when
handicapping
you
the likelihood
with
of
the when in 90 when I had the El Torito situation with the guys, and you were like, oh yeah, here's the victim, and I was like, how in the world how did you know that? And I mean, that was
the operations room
30
here.
years ago, you know. And
Right.
so
Yes,
but
exactly.
and also everybody, as you know, Dr. Picato is not only a good friend, but he's an amazing human being. And if you do need help and you're in the Manhattan area, look him up. He does see patients, and he's one of the most empathetic human beings I've met. And with all the darkness that we see around us, he is a bright light with inside of that darkness as a whole. Not to steal a comment from somebody, but you are amazing. And so anyway, any other thoughts, Doc, before we call this? It's an hour and 40, and I told you I'd only take I said 60.
Can't help myself. It sounds like people have a lot of questions. I don't know if you want to take a few minutes. I guess the most important thing to say is, obviously, we have to let law enforcement do its job. I think we're arriving at conclusions that are very similar to what law enforcement came up with, which is that nothing can be eliminated, right? There's the abduction thing doesn't make any sense.
All right. So also think about this. The TBI, FBI, and all of them, we know that they said there's no sign of an abduction. There's no sign that, you know, she's wandered off. So, you know, everyone's a suspect. Now, think of, you know, like the big, you know, some of the bigger channels that are former law enforcement. Think of the former law enforcement's channels that are on here, professionals across the board. They all that I can think of think that Don and Candace's story stinks. Like the former law enforcement channels or retired. They all think that it stinks. They've seen a lot of you know, missing individuals, missing people. They've seen it all. They can, you know, they're not affiliated with the case. They don't know, you know, a lot of behind the scenes, but they see a lot of it. And they say the story of Don and Candace stinks. That's interesting, isn't it? Oh, thank you, Miss Kirby. Oops, where'd it go? Thank you, Miss Kirby. Justin, you and all of us must not stop. Must never stop. Yeah, to get summer justice. Amen. Amen. Thank you for that, Miss Kirby. So, oh yeah, it does. It does. I mean, their story does not make sense.
But like they haven't eliminated anything else. You know what I mean? So I haven't. I mean, am I right that nobody's been ruled out here? It's
No,
all
everybody's still on the table.
right, and that's why I think we're not just like blindly speculating here. What we're saying is we can understand why these everybody's still on the table, and I think it is a case that really, if you kind of come at it with knowledge of crime, a lot of things just start collapsing rapidly is not making a lot of sense. If you come at it with knowledge of human psychology, a lot of things start to collapse and not make a lot of sense. And to me, the whole thing reeks of that a lot of people know a lot of things
Oh, look at Dr. Gary. He studies crime. That's what he does. And he just says it reeks.
that they can't tell, that they're afraid to tell. And so the most important thing for me is anybody who's watching, who's connected in some way or whatever, is I would say, let the truth override your fear and just sort of
Good point, Mohawk. Sad when the dispatch calls, they tell you to look in the camper, so they are well known to 911 operators. Oh yeah, I'm sure there is quite the history of 911 calls to Ben Hill Road.
talk. Don't be afraid to talk to people because in the long run, the kind of person who would do something like this would not suddenly become a Boy Scout. You would be preventing the person potentially from going on to more awful things.
So Miss Kitty is asking a question, Doc.
Mhm.
I'd love to know what the doc thinks in time with therapy, the children will speak up on history of home life.
I cannot obviously speak to what will happen here because I don't know enough about this story. I don't want to speculate about that, but I will say in general terms, one of the interesting things about children is they have a proclivity to protect their family members, their parents, even if terrible things are happening to them. Because, first of all, those are the people who are responsible for whether you live or die. You develop these kinds of bonds with them. We wish to believe that they are loving and good people. But what happens is that with a skilled interviewer, you start to detect things that sound wrong or sound terrible or whatever that have been normalized for a child, and sometimes the child will start to slip up or kind of reveal things, and then you can form a bond and say, this is a safe space where you can tell me that, and I'll tell you, and I'll be the one who decides, for you whether that's
Stephanie, that's true. That's true. Uh, but they say they're like, well, they've never changed their story. Yeah, and they've never came up with a time in 2.5 years either. So there's that. And I think it's something to be said whenever Candace's oldest children, you know, when she wrote that letter when Candace was trying to get in contact with her, how, she didn't want anything to do with her. And not to mention, the boys right now, they know the difference. You know, they don't have to live in this anymore. If I got it, they don't have to live in this anymore. They get to go to bed with a nice fitted sheet, with nice, clean blankets and a pillow. I mean, who would want to come back to this? Who would want to come back to this? You know, me too. Me too. Lord, it gets me emotional just thinking about them this holiday season. They don't have to, you know, have wires and plumbing hanging from the ceiling. You know, you saw the boys' room upstairs, not a sheet, not a blanket, not a pillow, probably nothing on the mattress other than rat shit. That's probably all it was, and probably still all is there. No kid in the United States of America should live like that. Why did I just click that off? And now they have a family. Thank God. Hello, my dear.
That was a safe thing or a good thing or a bad thing. You don't have to make a judgment, but let me tell you. And then you could say to the child, um, you know, a lot of other children go through that, but it's okay, that it's scary or that it's bad or whatever, and that maybe you think it's okay because it happens so much, but but it's okay, for me to tell you that it isn't safe or it isn't good or it isn't. In other words, you've got to make that kind of allegiance, and with time, things do start to come out, and then there's a great relief in revealing. But at first, there does tend to be a protectiveness, and sometimes the child is just afraid that they're going to be hurt by someone. And we don't, of course, know if that any of that was going on in this story. But as a general case, general story, I would say that yeah, that in my experience does tend to be the way it works, um, because kids form those alliances with the people who care for them, and that happens in the general population too. How many people do we know that had parents that were negligent or cruel to them, and they developed a loving bond with that parent out of fear that if they didn't, they wouldn't have any parents, right? And then they spend the rest of their lives until they get some help, usually getting into lousy relationships because that's what they think love is. That's what they.
I don't know why YouTube does that. It'll like go fast. It like kind of fast forwards, and I'm not fast forwarding it. I hope Candace's dog didn't end up in a shelter. Well, the one at the hotel, Common Sense, Candace says she gave it back to the owners. I have a message that the dog saw like another dog or some other animal out, and it ran out in front of a car allegedly. But Candace says she gave it back to the owners. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, they should not be responsible for anything living. I mean, grass growing under their feet is just scary to me. I I still have not got over that mattress. It's permanently in my brain. Who believes what Candace says? I don't. I certainly don't. I certainly don't, because I know she lies. I know she lies 100%. I know she certainly lied about Jose, saying it wasn't him, after she said it was him, and Andrew said it was him, his kid said it was him, Allie said it was him, Don said it was him. And then she's sitting in the back of the car doing an interview, and she's like, oh, he probably paid someone to come up there and act like it was Jose. And then we know for a fact that she looked at Chris in the eye and lied to him, saying, oh, if my mom was here right now, she would tell you that beer was hers. I would never give it to Hunter. And she lies good. She's good at it.
I think it is to be cared about by somebody. So person just keeps getting involved in horrendous relationships or relationship where person doesn't care about you. So because ultimately our relationships are often a reflection of our childhood attachments. As Freud said, our beds are crowded.
I also want to say, sorry, I muted myself. So I was saying also that parents, kids still love their parents, even if they are crap. They still love them, at times. And like Dr. Gary said, sometimes it's out of fear, sometimes, it whatever. But just because, they're pieces of crap at times, that's all they know. That's all they know. They don't have anyone else. They have nobody else. The kids will still love you, even though the parents or the caregiver is not, which that is not love. That is not love. You take care of the things you love. You honor the things that you love. You make sure your kids are safe and sound, mental health, physical health, emotional. That is not love. Love does not look like that. It doesn't. It's not. Love is patient, love is kind, love is never, what is it, jealous or rude, that kind of thing.
I love it. So it sounds like we have to do a part 2 and show you the inside of the house. But I think folks are wanting
Oh,
your
sure.
opinion about the inside of the house. So
That
we will do that.
warm and toasty environment that you made it sound like. Yes, I'd really love to see the flowers, that flower area there. I saw a glimpse of some like hideous weeds and things. Do you have any other images of that?
I've got close-ups of them.
I'd sure love to see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Are there
well,
any questions that we can address other than that? Yeah, see, FBR car team said no abduction. Right. So then what?
okay, so let's see here. I'm looking here.
Has it also been exhaustively determined that she didn't just wander off, fall in the water, drown, die in the woods, whatever? That's been ruled out, right?
Yeah, there were over 100 and I think 132 agencies that assisted during the search at that time. And so they did not come up with her body at that time, nor have,
Or
and they've gone back.
house has been searched too.
Yeah, they have been going back and forth, the house, everything, neighbors, everything, and they've not yet discovered her. Yeah.
So
And you
whoever
have,
took her very far away to eliminate her body, or
That's what Don says. Don says she's far away. They got out of there quickly, whoever did it. And they probably took a specific road because it didn't have any cameras on it, if you know the right areas, he says. It's interesting.
has her very far away. In other words,
correct.
she's nowhere in the immediate area. Okay.
Yeah, and you and I both know statistically, right, within the first 3 hours, there could be a problem. If it was a stranger abduction. If it was a stranger abduction. I'm trying to
Type
grab a
of
couple.
offender who would have taken her in this way would be a local. Would
Yeah,
almost
this is the other
local.
one where, the mom's sister, Rose by, I've talked to the sheriff on that one, and I'll talk to you offline about that, but, that's also, this is the sister of the mom who's just vanished again. So you have a family with two family members.
2 family members missing. Rose went missing in 2009. Is it 2009? And Summer goes missing in 21. And neither have been found. Neither one. Now, that's extremely rare for, one person to go missing in a family and, not be found. But 2? It's like, what the hell's going on in that family?
That have evaporated. And what the other part of it's really interesting is some of the family dynamics and of the mother's uncle was just recently released out of a prison in Wisconsin. He was a Category 5 high risk RSO, and the Attorney General petitioned the parole board not to release him from prison.
Wait, I'm sorry. Which person is this? Who is the RSO?
This is the mother's uncle. Okay, so it's her mother's brother.
That's interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was released, and now the father's son in another state is also an RSO that has been, in the circle, but they're in another state, so they didn't have access at the time. But as you and I both know, there seems to be a lot more behind the scenes, and this is why it was significant. I didn't share with you also that his stepsisters had come forward with allegations of SA, and that just set everything into another round. So, but we'll talk about that You know,
Well, what's disturbing about what you're saying is that it implies that how do I put this? It implies that the people that would be on either side of the possibilities here, right? Somebody comes and abducts the child, would probably be for sexual reasons. If there was some internal reason why this child isn't here anymore, it sort of makes you wonder if there was a sexual or abuse component there. So the trouble is that no matter how you slice it, you come up with the probability that, you know, this child did not die in her bed, as they say, right? So that or she is not alive somewhere and okay because she was treated with pretty flowers somewhere. The reality is that this is a horrendous story, no matter what turns out to be. And that just kind of breaks your heart. I think you have to kind of pause a moment and realize what we're talking about here. I mean, this is the sweetest little kid. I mean, did you see her on that video? It's like heartbreaking.
yeah, it's crazy. And I think that's why there's still, 4,200 people listening at this moment, because she has captured the world. And, we're kind of narrowing down here, but, this is, this is the phone number to find her, 1-800-TBI-FIND. And there are just so many people that love this child. She's, I don't know, she's grabbed everybody's heartstrings, just almost like a John Bonet situation. I mean, where, of course they had her, and that's going to take a new turn here, hopefully, with the new DNA. And, we've talked about that, behind the scenes. I don't know if people got a chance to watch us on that particular program that
Oh,
we
yeah.
did with, there's a lot going on. And so everybody, I can tell everybody, but Gary and Dr. Ann Burgess and Dr. Victor Petreco are doing some analysis with some of the writings from that individual from prison, through Boston College and some of their research up there. So it's going to be fascinating to see what they come up with. And we're all bated breath waiting for you to, for those results to come out from Ann and et cetera, and see what's going on there. But
Right. But
that
but
said,
at least in that case, Chris, you do have something, the garage, right? That
yeah,
that at least makes sense. It jives with the idea of a sexually sadistic person kind of targeting a child that is not some family member or whatever. I mean, a family member coming up with a cover story about who broke in to kill a kid is not going to put a garrote on their child. That's not what
no,
would happen. The whole idea is, what are you doing?
Right. If you're talking about, say, for instance, Jean Benet, Jean Benet, someone had a motivation to go in to the house and they put a garrote around Jean Benet's neck, right? And, you know, there's motivation to, they knew where Jean Benet was. This with Summer makes no sense whatsoever. I think the story, particularly once 3:30 hits, after they get home, nothing makes sense.
Covering for one child. What's that ridiculous story people tell? They were covering for one child that actually killed the other child, whatever. So you go and you put a garrote on what, you're a protective, caring parent protecting one. So you go put a garrote on the other one. I mean, sometimes there is truth to that Judge Judy, axiom. If it doesn't, if it doesn't make sense, it isn't true. Well, there's a little truth to that. That sometimes you kind of have to go, my gut doesn't make sense. I did want to ask you, Chris, one question.
sure.
When you were having that conversation with this poor girl's mother, as someone who has told the audience here that you've experienced the loss of a child,
Mhm.
Did you feel that kind of empathy, that bond that two people who have gone through the same terrible thing feel when they talk to each other? Did it feel like I've lost a child, you've lost a child, and now we have an intimacy? Or did it feel more like I'm feeling one way about that and you're feeling another about it, and we're like two strangers having a. Did you feel that instant intimacy?
That's a very interesting question because I mean, you know me. I mean,
I do.
we've
I've had that pleasure.
yeah, well, but I mean, we've had immense conversations, right, about
Oh yeah.
just different things. And what was interesting about this, to answer your question, was you know I've I've seen parents who are just lost, because of the death of their
Exactly.
their children. They're just lost. I didn't get that sense with her that day. I got the sense that she's sad, right? But I've seen, the depth of suffering to where it's just it becomes numb.
That's an interesting question that Dr. Gary did ask Chris because, unfortunately, Chris and Karen, they have lost a child. And that is a club that nobody wants to be in, number one. And number two, you know, very not many people, understand that. Well, someone that, has been in that position, you could bond, over a common grief. And, is that something that, you know, the experience, what was Chris's experience with that did. And you think you talked to Don and Candace, and at day 14 it was, well, I mean, at hour 3 it was, well, if I don't ever see her again, I'll see her in the resurrection. And that's not a feeling of grief. A child, losing a child is a void, an immense, deepest void that you could ever go through. I mean, you lose a husband, a wife, an aunt, an uncle, a mom, a dad is horrible. But a child is immensely different. There is no love like a kid. There's no love like it. You love your kids more than any person on the planet. And that's why, my heart goes out to, you know, anyone that has lost a kid. But you just you don't feel that with in this situation. You just don't feel that, in my opinion. And it's, I don't know. I mean, you see, Natalie Holloway's parents, you know, doing everything in their power. You see Brandy this immense grief, this void of hurt, just rawness. And I feel like, and I don't want to say that, I'm not going to say that they don't miss summer and they don't love summer, because I think that would be unfair. But I feel like they're not telling us is they can't go to that grief, or there because they have to constantly protect themselves. Hey, cotton candy. I thought I saw Brandy. You keep them in the brightest light, love, and hope as possible. And you are amazing.
And it becomes compartmentalized.
Well, and then you have, Dawn saying the most crazy stuff and painting a picture of what May Summer had went through potentially. And it's just the oddest behavior.
I was talking to somebody recently in a church function, and they were telling me, they were sharing about their child, and the loss of the child, and I could sense in that person that they can't make, it's only been 3 years for them, and it just were like scrambled eggs up here still, right?
Yeah.
And you and I both know, because you sit with people like myself and others,
Of course.
that you see that immediately, that bond that you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking
Because,
about.
yeah, because you don't say anything at that point, right? It's like, what can you say? They're living it, they're going through it. And so that empathy becomes real.
That's
And
right.
I felt empathetic towards her. I still do. I
Mhm.
feel sad towards, the totality of the circumstances for them. But, at the other side of the coin is, what did this child go through, if anything? And how can I help make sense of that? And what's really an interesting dynamic is, you add social media and people beat you up on social media for it. I mean, it's just this
And to lose, you know, a child to a tragedy is specifically like abuse, neglect, um, kidnapping, you know, like, I just don't get it. I just don't get I don't get Don and Candace. I just don't get it.
civilized, plethora of, these people are doing, this guy's doing this because of, this or that, clicks and likes and all this other garbage. When me, in the reality, I don't need any of that, zero. Been there, done it, right? And so when I saw them go to social media and start presenting, the story. And then when it wasn't going their way, i.e., those types of individuals started grabbing them, I also had an empathy of like, just tell the truth, whatever it is. If there is a truth there, you need to put it on the table and just let it out, because it's not going to get any better. I think you and I both know that. So I know that was a long answer, but no, I didn't
It's a
completely
very
quit.
important. It's actually a very important question. If you really think about it, right? Because I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that as somebody who has been there, you're in my mind a kind of reliable barometer of the
Mm,
depth of a person's grief, and you'd recognize it, right? And
mhm.
like Emily Dickinson, I measure every grief I meet, right? Right. Well, it's just something that I wanted to know about how you felt. I mean, I know as somebody who's gone through loss myself, that when I
Yeah.
meet someone who's experienced it, I feel sort of like I'm meeting someone who speaks my language in a foreign market, and we
Mhm.
understand each other instantly, right? Everybody's speaking a foreign language and gesticulating and pointing at the map and trying to make sense out of. And then you get someone who just speaks your language and you talk and you get each other, right? And
Yes, it's kind of if you've ever traveled abroad and you've been to a country where, you know, like you see, like I've been places and you see Americans there and you're like, oh you don't know them from Adam, but you have this bond with them because you speak the same language, right? And they're instantly family, because you're in a place where all around you, um, they're familiar. And that's how it is with, someone unfortunately losing, a child. The- You someone can only understand if you've been through it. Thank you, Ginger.
and so I think that it's just interesting for me to ask the question of how you reacted when you heard that story, if it matched, if it jived. And it sounds sort of strange. It sounds like somebody talking about someone else's kid.
Yeah,
That it
you
described.
are 100% right. And I mean, here's an example here. That's the one thing I also love about this channel. I mean, we have the ability, and with you, having come on as much as you have, I mean, just your
No,
time
that's
is,
for
and
me.
I mean, we're kind of co-hosting this thing right now, and we're kind of running this lane, and it's great.
I don't know why it fast forwards like that. They just keep making things worse for themselves. I can't figure out why they keep doing it. Um, that's a very good question. I don't know. I don't know. I think, for the most part they've stepped back, but I think just with anything in Don and Candace's life, and particularly anybody, that may be struggling with a, addiction during the times when they are actively drinking, using, or whatever, that's when they start talking and it doesn't go well for them. Hey, Lulu. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours too. Thank you. Miss Kirby, I saw a mother one day. We looked at each other and we cried. We was in the graveyard. We held each other. Oh, sad. My plan is to work with agencies to help other families with the support system. And you're going to be so great at that, Brandy. So amazing. They do sound like they could be talking about anyone else. Yeah. These parents have a bond. It's a yeah. You would think, but it's let me hold on. Let's see here if I can. Let me see if I can pull something up. Uh, Let me see if I can find this. Like I'm not familiar with this case, but just look.
We just want to bring him home where he's loved. Where he's loved.
One of the pleas for help, as they told us in the media today.
Please, if you know anything that could help, please share it. Share it on Facebook, use your media and get it out there and help us find him. We just want to bring him home where he's loved.
All right, let's see here.
A lot. I know she didn't walk away from this property by herself or off this yard by her swing. I feel in my heart that somebody has came up here and took her, has lured her away from here. Me and
You get it?
my mother and her were planting flowers. And we went in after we got done washing our hands, and she got a piece of candy from grandma, and she wanted to go back over and see her brothers. And I said, okay. And I walked her all the way over to the porch, and I watched her walk into the kitchen where the boys were watching TV. And I told the boys, I said, watch Summer, I'll be back. And within 2 minutes, I came back, and I asked the boys where their sister was, and they said, she went downstairs, Mom, to play with her toys in the playroom. I said, okay. And I yelled downstairs for her a couple times, and I didn't get no answer, which was unusual because usually she always answers me. And so I went down there to check, and she was nowhere in sight. She was just gone. I don't go on walks around here or runs because I'm scared of the bears and snakes and even the coyotes that are around here. Well, whoever has my daughter, I pray and hope that they have not harmed her and they bring her back to us safe and sound.
Yeah, the bears.
Just go to the FBI, the police, and clear it up. I mean, I don't know. It seems kind of elusive.
Boy, it does. Yeah, just gone. It's kind of elusive. What are you hiding behind his eyes, Donald?
It's really strange that I've never seen this truck and I've never heard of it until just recently. But I wish they would come forward and explain themselves. And if you're not a suspect, at least come forward and say what you've seen. She was a tomboy. I shaved my head. She wanted
It's defensive. It's, yeah, no pleading. No pleading. No, if you know some, please, 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 Summer, mommy's here, daddy's here. We're going to find you. I mean, look at
Shave like me and the boys did.
She tried to shave her head
She tried
in
to
the
shave her
back
head
and make
herself.
it. I think you can see it in some of the pictures, and it was getting out of control.
they're over explaining.
So we decided to shave her head off and let it grow back long, and she shaved her head to so she wouldn't feel bad, and but it didn't bother her at this point. Well, I knew right away that she was abducted. I knew that right away, and that's what I told them from the beginning. But they have to go through their, I forget the word.
Investigation.
They have to do one step at a time, I guess. But I'm sorry that they had to spend so many man hours in these woods and everything. I've seen them
apologizing. See, I think it would have been better to, yeah, it's too much talking, but it would have been better to have been like, we're grateful for the men and women out here, searching for Summer, not I'm sorry they're having to limp through the woods. It's so weird. Yeah, and Tracy, I mentioned that because they're like, well, it didn't bother her at this point of her head being shaved.
limping and everything else, and I feel for them. But I just wish there was a way that neighbors could search neighbors' houses, and then if they're not willing, get a search warrant or something. But there's just no way you can search every single house, in the eastern United States or whatever. But I wish there was a way. Just thankful for the person or persons that's doing that, out of love, and trying to get information and trying to get her found. We thank them from the bottom of our hearts.
That means a lot.
And we thank everybody who's trying so hard and praying so hard. And she's an awesome young lady, and we just want her back.
Awesome young lady. She is an awesome young lady. Oops. Messed that up. Sorry. She's an awesome young lady. Not our Summer. She is an awesome young lady. Just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's always going to be haters, and it's always going to be that way in this world. And we just want to focus on the good friends and Christian people that are trying to help us and praying for us and praying for Summer. And we thank them for.
ABE, thank you for becoming a member, my love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate you. It's very kind of you. Welcome to the family. Happy Thanksgiving, or be happy wherever you are. Yeah, dog alert, bark, bark. Hear the dogs. Dog alert.
That are trying to help.
There's always going to be haters. Always going to be haters. We're just trying to hang around good Christian folk. They pay our electric bill
Help
and
us
stuff.
and praying for us
Don't
and
smoke
praying
too
for
much
Summer.
crack.
And we thank them from the bottom of our hearts. And that's the kind of people we try to relate with and socialize with. So we don't know anything about, no red truck, or we hardly know many of our neighbors. I mean, because
That's a lie. They hardly know any of our neighbors. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Peep and Don Hardly knows any of them. It's up there, you know. Peeper Don.
We just try to
Those are the eyes that looks through those windows, getting those panties.
be around good people. I mean,
Ugh.
and we do have good people in this area. We found out since this has all happened. We got some real good neighbors and good folks everywhere. But
The most important thing is to bring Summer home safe. I'm sorry that you feel this way about us, but we love our children with everything we have.
She's sorry they feel this way about them. I don't know. That just seems.
We've never went without, thanks to Summer's daddy and my husband. He's always
They.
provided for us and has worked as much as he could and can and still is. And I'm sorry that you guys feel that way, but that's my baby. And
This is interesting. I'm sorry you guys feel that way against us. Summer's daddy works and takes care of us. And then she says this.
nobody would ever treat her like that as long as I was around.
Nobody would ever treat her like. But that's the problem, is she was around. Adults were around. Dogs were around. Kids were around. Like, it's in the middle of nowhere. And treat her like what? How do you know she was treated?
Ever.
she loves to dance. She would always want me. She says, "Daddy, hold my hand so I can twirl." And she would just like to twirl and twirl and twirl till my arm got tired, you know. But and you know, I put out there that one of Summer's favorite songs was Godzilla, and they say, you know, and they're jumping all over me about past tense was, you know. Well, I'm sorry about that. It's just
She also liked the song by New Breed. It was called House, My House.
It's more of, in my opinion, it's not how can we get our daughter back, this interview. It's more of, I'm sorry for the people out there, you know, getting cut up, searching for Summer. I'm sorry to the people or the person who has this against us. I'm sorry I'm using past tense. A bunch of I'm sorries, not how can we, you know, how can we get our child back? What does it take?
She sung that a lot of times when I play it on the TV. She loved to dance.
she liked to think of herself as a princess, and you know, and all that, like all young girls do. And
She loved Frozen. She loved to be that Elsa and
I think she really loved to be in church because she felt a lot of love there. And I think you can't explain what that love is, but you feel it and you know it, you know, when you're young. And she felt that there, and she loved everybody in that church, or she loves everybody in that church. I should rephrase that because they'll tear that apart as past tense, and I apologize again for that. I hope she gets to come home.
It's like one big apology. They'll tear that up.
You know, and I hope she gets to be with our church family again.
Our best friend in that
Yeah.
church was Robin. She loved her to death.
Yeah, she looked up to
When
women that were
she come to that church, she went looking for Robin. That was her favorite person.
any woman that was professional,
Was
that
pretty,
she
beautiful.
looked up to those kind of women. She, you know, they were the word I'm looking for, I can't think of it, but she looked up to them. She'd give them a run for their money every day. She'd give them a run for their money, and there was times, you know, we'd be, you know, at our boys like, don't do this and don't do that. And next thing you know, a stick would come up and just whop them, you know, and it'd be like, Summer, don't do that.
Summer was the boss of the family.
She's
She
typical girl.
when they get out of line, she'd put them in line.
She'd do her best.
She loved to play in the mud and the water and swing on her swing and enjoy dirt.
When I run the lawnmower around, she would run behind me. When the boys run their bikes around, she, as fast as that little bike could go, she would be behind them running and keeping up with them, no problem. You know, she loved to run. She just loved to run, and she could pull herself up on that swing, her full body weight with her two hands, and she could do that. None of the other boys can do that, but she can.
Was she at school yet?
No, she's going this year.
This was supposed to be her first year.
She's been. We did all the what?
I took care of everything.
Yeah.
I had her already taken all of her shots and registered in the school.
She was going this year, not she will be going this year.
Ready for this year.
I just never expected for anyone to get a hold of my heart like she has, because I try to guard my heart as much as I can, but she holds my heart in her little hands, and I love her with all my heart. I mean, I'd do anything to have her back.
Your little girl.
If there's any way, if you can find it in your heart to please release her somehow, I don't know how you might do that.
Listen to this part. This part really gets me. This part really gets me. If you can find some way in your heart, yeah, he's licking his lips, which means it's a can be a sign of lying. I don't know how you might do that. And then he's like, I'll let him say the next thing.
I mean, 'cause you're probably scared of going to prison for the rest of your life and everything else, I'm sure. But please find it in your heart. Have mercy.
Never seen anyone like this in my life. I don't know how you might, let our daughter go, but I'm going to go ahead and say you're probably, scared of going to prison the rest of your life. Not not listen. Let her go. Let Summer go. No harm, no foul. Just let her be safe and sound. We won't do any,
And find a way of letting her go, and where we can get her back. And just please have mercy on her, and and us and her brothers. And she's such a loving, good spirit. Please don't hurt her. Please let her come home. That my biggest fear is, her being tormented or locked in a dungeon or basement or something.
she's hidden away somewhere in the gets Yeah. Locked in a dungeon or a basement somewhere. It's interesting how the last place was a basement. Summer was supposedly in, right?
Because she loved to be outside all the time. That was her, unfortunately, her downfall. 'Cause a lot of times the boys would be inside.
Now, this is what I don't understand is why is Summer liking to play outside as her downfall? Most kids like to play outside. Why is that a downfall? That doesn't make sense to me. Kids like to play outside. And now he's going to build on that. He's going to talk about why this is her downfall or what they do to try to prevent this from being her downfall.
And we'd be like, "Where's Summer? Why'd you leave her out there alone? Go get Summer now." And that's happened over and over again.
So why did you leave her? I mean, listen, if I lived where Don and Candace lived on a dead end road on a big hill with woods around us, I mean, I wouldn't like someone kidnapping would be the last thing that I think of. That's going to be the last thing that I think of. It's not going to be the first thing like they think. Because according to Grandis, immediately they knew that Summer was kidnapped. We sent the boys over the hill and prayed to God that they wouldn't get kidnapped either. Now, why would you think that? Why would you think that? You are on a hill that your house cannot be seen. Woods all the way around you. On a big ass gravel driveway up a hill. So why is this Summer's downfall? Was there an accident?
And we'd come out, and she would always be close by, but we was always coming. She had to be outside. She was an outdoor person. And
She loved to be outside.
And I'm so afraid that she's locked away. She's such a loving heart and everything, and I'm afraid that she won't be able to, I'm locked away where she can't be outside or play with a puppy or anything, love nature, and that's my greatest fear, that she's not able to do any of
Enjoy the
these things
beautiful
anymore,
outdoors.
or that she could possibly, I don't want to think she's dead, but it's a possibility. I don't want to address all the negativity.
There it goes. There it goes.
She's dead, but it's a possibility. I don't want to address all the negativity.
Oops, I want to go out. I want to go there. YouTube is so weird right now.
But it's possibility. I don't want to address all the negativity. I just want to focus on the positive because
I just want to focus on the positive, and Candace butts in there and find our daughter. That says so much to me. Like that look
ability.
right here, right there. She's showing disgust, fear. What the hell are you doing?
I
In my
don't
opinion.
want to address all the negativity. I just want to focus on the positive because it's so easy to get, lost in that negativity and stuff, and it's just not worth it. So I'm just, I appreciate y'all for the good things you say and your prayers. That's awesome.
That's crazy. They didn't mean to mention. Yeah, it's a weird thing, to say the least. All right, guys. Happy Thanksgiving to each and every one of you. Hope it is a good one for each of you. Count your blessings. We have a lot, all of us, to be thankful for. That's right, Miss Kirby. Exactly, Lisa Lee. Exactly. Happy Thanksgiving. I will be live at some point tomorrow evening. We'll have a after turkey party. We'll have an after turkey party. And after we've spent time with the family, ate, and then slept a little bit. Yeah. Ken's heart rate increases. I'm sure. I'm sure. All right, guys. Hey, Pickle Toes Grandma. Good night, everyone. All I want for Christmas is prayers answered. Michael Von Summer and all the missing. Amen. Amen. Dessert live stream. You are not, Judith. Not at all. Just chat's moving back quick. Sorry. Good night. God bless. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you tomorrow, Lord willing. Good night.